Friday, the 8th of May in New Zealand here. Welcome to Pods with Posh and Pool. We are today speaking on finding self-love.
I'm going straight in with a quote, Sue, because this really epitomises it.
Great.
And the late Louise Hay was an absolute, oh my God, a powerhouse on self-love. And she says, raise your self-esteem to such a level that you only allow loving experiences in your life. Don't waste time trying to get even. It doesn't work. What we give out always comes back to us. So let's drop the past and work on loving ourselves in the now. Then we will have a wonderful future.
Oh, I love it. What we give out. It's about what we give out, isn't it? We can't give out if we don't have an ability to love ourselves. We have to first love ourselves so that when we know the power of love, we can give out. I love it. Louise Hay was amazing. Can you read it again? Because it's really gorgeous. I love Louise Hay and I love that quote.
I do too. Let me find it again. Sorry, my phone just went off. It says, raise your self-esteem to such a level that you only allow loving experiences in your life. Don't waste time trying to get even. It doesn't work. What we give out always comes back to us. So let's drop the past and work on loving ourselves in the now. Then we will have a wonderful future.
And if we only allow loving experiences to come into our life, we need to be aware. First of all, we always talk about being aware, don't we? First of all, if we're not aware, then we can't make changes in our life. If we're aware of the experiences we are allowing into our life, not only from other people, but also from ourselves, then that's the first key stage. So if we look at the friendship set, we look at the people we surround ourselves with at work, we look at those friends we've got at school, we can then analyze what we accept. And what we accept is actually what we become, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah, and I think what it means as well is we all have accepted things that are not right in the past, I would say. I think a majority of people will put their hand on their heart and say that. They've either possibly give out stuff that isn't acceptable, or they have taken on things that is not acceptable. And basically, when we get to a place where our self-esteem is at such a level, where we truly know that we are love and we can love ourselves, flaws and all, because we're not perfect, then we won't accept anything other than that into our life. So it's like, we talk about healthy boundaries in relationships. And healthy boundaries, you can put them in yourself. But if you are forever beating yourself up, so if you are forever emotionally being nasty to yourself, I am not worthy, I am not enough, I am fat, I am ugly, I'm not as clever as such and such, I can't do that. And the list goes on. If you are forever doing that to yourself, then what are you going to allow into your life? You are going to allow people who say those words into your life. Now, we had a guest on the show the other day, Owen, and we haven't quite released his podcast yet, but he's amazing. And he was in the Navy. And so he was standing there painting the boat. He said you've learned to paint a lot of things grey when you're in the Navy, which is hilarious. And he was painting them grey. And his commander walked past him and said to him, you might as well get used to that boy because it's all you're good for. That commander on that day crossed a line. So Owen, up until that point, may not have been that nice to himself. I don't know for sure. I'm just giving you an example. But he may not have been that nice to himself up until that point. Then a commander comes in and says those words over him. And Owen thought, sod you, I'm better than that. I know I can go further. And then he became a diver. Freaking fantastic. Because he wasn't going to accept that statement into his life because he didn't believe it. He knew what his worth was. He had a worth. The line was there in the sand. The commander crossed it. No. I'm not going to believe that. And that's where self-worth comes into it. If we can raise our self-esteem, if we can raise our self-worth, if we can learn to love ourselves, then we are not going to allow abuse into our life, bullying, mean words, unacceptable behavior. We're just not going to accept it.
And the good thing about Owen was that he was really aware that words hold such power. And so he could make a decision at that point that he was going to turn his life around, that he wasn't only going to be painting things grey for the rest of his life. But I think if we take a step away from that, we need to look really carefully at the words we speak over our own life, because we don't actually take time to stop and listen to the internal dialogue we have over ourselves. So when something goes wrong, what do we say? Do we say you're useless? Do we say, oh, you've done it again? Do we look at those repeated patterns of behavior and think, I'm useless, I'm never going to make any success of myself? So I think the first thing to do, if we look at moving on into self-love, is to be aware of the dialogue we have over ourselves. What do we speak?
Yeah, absolutely. Because as we say, you know, there's that old phrase, isn't there? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's outdated. And words hurt, and they cut deep, and they have value. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's all the words we talk to ourselves. And there is such power in them, but they can be turned around. You know, it's that, I can't remember the quote, it can't come to, but you know, it's that thing and say you either can or you can't, but it's whatever you tell yourself is going to be your truth. If you tell yourself you can't do something, well, how are you ever going to do it? Whereas if you say, I can do this, I can do this, yes, you may fail, but you're going to find another way to do it. It's the words we speak. So if you're forever going to say to yourself, I am fat, I am ugly, I am worthless, I am useless, I can't do this, that's the worth you are putting on you. Now, look around, because sometimes it's very hard to change the dialogue in your head. Look around at your best friend. How do you feel about them? Do you think they're amazing? Do you think they're magnificent? Do you think they're a really good person? Imagine that. Imagine your best friend saying those awful words to themselves. You wouldn't want them to speak those words over their life. You would convince them otherwise. You'd say, don't be so ridiculous. You're not useless. You're so worthwhile. I love you. Oh my God. And you'd list off their endless qualities. It's so easy to do it to somebody else. Not so easy to do it about ourselves.
It's much harder. It's so much harder. But the other thing then is to, again, come back always to be aware of what you're speaking over yourself. What is it in your computer, Joe, that's going beep, beep?
It is driving.
My alarm's just gone off as well. We're on an alarm day. Maybe it's just to be really aware of what's going on as well. But I think, you know, we form patterns of behavior, and there are times in our life we get low, we get depressed, we get down, the circumstances that are adverse, and we go through periods of suffering and pain. And that's okay. In those places, we're allowed to feel low, we're allowed to feel anxious or fearful, but the point is not to stay there. And when you're in those places, the technique, the tool to use is to say, I feel useless, but I'm not. I am not a useless person. Even though I'm feeling it at the moment, I'm going to climb out of this place. I'm going to seek help. I'm going to start living in gratitude. It's interesting because I had a conversation with somebody last week that was talking about how useless they felt about themselves, and yet that person doesn't live in gratitude. And it's difficult, isn't it? It's a kind of dichotomy of extremes, because on one hand you can always look at the things that are bad, but the minute you turn your head and be grateful for the things that you've got in your life, even if you don't feel grateful for them, but you start noticing them, you start noticing the fresh air that you've had, you start noticing that the sun came out, or the rain came to water the plants, or there were birds flying in the air, you woke up this morning and you could breathe fresh air, whatever it was. If you start looking at gratitude, then you change the negative thoughts you have about the world and about your circumstances, and then you can start to change the way you view yourself as well. And it has to come from gratitude. And the other place it has to come is from service. It's actually from serving other people. It's from making a sacrifice yourself. It's coming from a place where I'm not going to constantly think about myself, but I'm going to do something nice and kind for somebody else today. It's in giving that we receive. But it's actually being aware, isn't it? We have to, number one, be aware, and then we can create change. We can step into gratitude. We can step into creating happiness to somebody else in that day. If we're not aware, we can't create that change.
Yeah, absolutely. And it breaks my heart to look around and to see how many people are fighting against themselves. Yeah. And that's what they're doing. They're fighting against themselves, you know. And so I explain it to when I work with teenagers or even grown-ups. When you are born, you are this beautiful baby. We look at babies. Do we look at anything other than in delight? We all use stupid voices with them. We want to cuddle them. We want to smell them. They are just pure balls of love. They come out without any preconceived ideas about themselves. And, look about little toddlers, how they walk around. They might wear their mum's high heels while their nappy's sticking out, and they've got dirt on their face and lollipops in their hair. But they think they're wonderful. They don't think anything other than that. They look in the mirror, they smile at themselves, they think it's hilarious. It's as life goes on and we're told we shouldn't, we couldn't, we wouldn't, don't do that, you're not good enough for that, or we hear little words above our lives, or we don't pass a test at school, or we don't get our pen license at school because our handwriting's not good enough. So then all of a sudden we're not good enough. We don't pass a test, or the person next to us in class got 10 out of 10 and we only got 9 out of 10, so therefore we failed. There's all this language that builds up over time, which strips away our self-worth. And there is not many people. You see the odd child in school, because you and I both go into schools and have taught in schools. You've obviously a teacher for many years, and I was a course facilitator. You could always spot the odd child within the school who had such a calmness about them, such peace about themselves. They're almost like old souls, and they don't get caught up in drama. They don't do any comparisons to other people. They're quite happy on their own little pathway. They might try hard at school, they might not. It doesn't matter. You can just see this aura around them of calmness, whereas everybody else is fighting this race to try to put value on themselves. And I don't know how then people are just born like that. Most of us are not. They are special human beings, and they are amazing, and they will always have that calmness about them. But the rest of us, we have to teach ourselves to love ourselves.
We can find it there. I mean, you've been in a place of abuse where you had to come out of a dark hole, and you talk about depression and those really dark moments in your life. And I've been there as well. And I think when you go on a journey of finding self-love and learning to love yourself, as opposed to trying to find love in somebody else or hide the pain through an addiction, shopping addiction, we talk about this a lot, don't we? Alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever it might look like, being busy, workaholics, over exercising. If we're burying that pain and don't address it, we don't sit in it, then we don't get rid of it, we don't heal. So therefore you can't have love and anger and hate all at the same time. So if you get rid of all the anger and the unforgiveness and the bitterness and the sense of rejection, low self-esteem, if you get rid of that, you can then walk on your path towards love. Once you find that love, then it's almost like finding the best chocolate you can ever imagine. You can't then go back and eat the cheap tacky chocolate, can you? It doesn't taste the same. Once you've tasted good chocolate or good wine, you can't ever go back and have cheap. So once you've experienced the power of that love within you, an internal love that is an ever-flowing source, it's almost like you can't go back to what was, and you just want more and more. It's an addiction. You just want more of that love, because with that love comes an internal joy, comes an internal peace and a freedom which is mind-blowing. And so I would really encourage people to go on the journey of finding self-love, finding love within, because I spent a lot of my life trying to find love without. My mother died when I was very young, and I think after that I spent a lot of time trying to find love in relationships, and it didn't work for me until I found it in myself. And it was only when I had a majorly failed relationship and I was at rock bottom and decided to go on that journey and found it within myself, then I find love all the way around me. Love is oozing out of everything. We're all interconnected, and we were born with a birthright of love, with connection and awareness. And we just need to come back into connection, to come back into love, come back into awareness, to find the beauty of who we are, love who we are. And then we can actually share that with other people and go on this magnificent journey with other people that come into our life for a season or for come into our life long term. But it is the most beautiful journey to go on.
I agree. And it may be controversial what I'm about to say, but I truly think there wouldn't be as much illness around, or you wouldn't accept abusive relationships if you loved yourself. Like I openly talk about living with depression for 20 years. So I have suffered a mental illness for a long, long time, and I do not sweep any of that under the carpet. However, if I had been in a place of self-love, would I have suffered for that long?
no, I actually truly hand on heart don't believe I would have. And I'm the only person who knows me. So I'm speaking from a personal place, just from myself. Obviously, everybody who suffers mental illness is very different. And I got myself into a very, very abusive relationship. Would I have accepted that if I had self-love right at the beginning? No, but you know what? I felt worthless at the beginning, and I took it on board, and I accepted a whole heap of abuse. And I look back now and I look at my children. If anybody treated my children like that, oh my God, I'd be like a raging mama bear, and I would not allow it to happen. But I allowed somebody to treat me like that because I was treating me like that. And it's not right. You know, I look at all of these people in toxic relationships. Do you know what? And it breaks my heart that actually some children nowadays, teenagers, don't even really know what a loving relationship is, because there's so much control and power trying to happen. People are in their own power struggles that they're trying to put their views and expectations on other people, and people are accepting that as the norm. It's not. If we come back to a place of self-love, self-acceptance, raising our self-worth, raising our self-esteem, we will raise the vibrations of the planet. It's as simple as that.
And it's not just children or teenagers, is it? I mean, in a way, it's sadder for adults that are still in that place that, you know, in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, because that journey to be with ourselves and to sit in ourselves and to get to know ourselves is so exciting. It's very hard. It's also very exciting. And it is the most beautiful journey that you can ever go on. And I work, like you, Jo, with lots of clients, and I see many, many mothers who give everything to their children and there's nothing of themselves, and the dynamics between teenage and young 20s and the mother often doesn't work because they're so drained, they have no identity, no purpose, no self-love, and they come to me and they say, will you work with my teenage children? And I say, no, I'm going to work with you, because once you realize how beautiful you are, once you understand who you are, and you start to radiate that in your family and stop rescuing your children will grow because you've grown, because you're going to role model that. And so whether we're a mother in the family, father in the family, and fathers do the same in many different ways. You know, they often don't go out drinking with their mates because they want to remain loyal to the family or loyal to the wife, but that's not self-love either. They need to go out with their mates, they need to hang out with men. Men need men, women need women. We need relationships. So to have a healthy relationship, healthy marriage, healthy family, healthy children, we have to, number one, take care of ourselves first. And if we don't, we cannot properly take care and love our children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can actually speak from personal experience. You know, I've obviously always told my children how beautiful they are. You know, you're gorgeous, you're beautiful, I love you. And I don't just talk about external, I talk about their hearts. You know, you're such a good soul, you're so beautiful. And, you know, I've only got one daughter and 3 sons. So, you know, I'm talking to my daughter, oh my gosh, you look so beautiful, you are gorgeous, I love you, blah, blah, blah. And I've said that forever. However, it definitely comes with a different energy since I've loved myself.
Yeah.
And my journey to self-love wasn't attractive. It wasn't attractive at all. It was like, you know, sometimes I was on the floor crawling, and no, it's not pretty. But it was worth every tear. It was worth every heartache. It was worth every crawling up the walls to try and save yourself. It was worth each and every bit of it. And now when I tell my children how beautiful they are, how gorgeous they are, it comes from a soulful place. It's not just lip service. It's not just words that we speak. And of course, I've always loved them, but I love them even differently now. I love myself.
Mm-hmm. And you can probably love them unconditionally, because we're not aware, are we, when we love people conditionally? We love people according to how they behave, who they are. And once we know ourselves and love ourselves, we can love others unconditionally. It doesn't matter how they behave. We don't try and change other people. I've got a lovely quote here. Self-love is not selfish. You cannot truly love another until you know how to love yourself. And then owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. I remember this chap saying once, you can go on this incredible journey and find self-love, and you come to a place where you just live in complete freedom and joy, and you have your ups and downs, but in those ups and downs, you find the freedom and the joy in those dark places. And he said, you can go on this journey and it could take you 10, 15 years. And in 10 or 15 years, you could be in this amazing place. Or he said, you can actually cut that period of time down, and you could do it in 6 months, a year. So he said, if you could do it in 6 months or a year, why would you take 10, 15 years? Because in 6 months or a year, you could then be in that place of freedom and complete joy and peace, still with highs and lows. And I thought, oh, I don't want to do it in 10, 15 years. I don't want to wait that long. I want to do it now. So he then gave the tools and techniques to do it now, which was basically, you sit in your pain. You don't run away from it. You stop the business, you stop the addictions, you stop the drink, you stop the comfort eating. Every time you go to the fridge because you're feeling a bit, you stop yourself and you just say, why am I going to the fridge to eat that? And you do something else. So you go for a walk, you go out of the house, you take yourself away from the fridge and you go and walk. And in that space, when you're walking, you just sit and you ask yourself, what is it right now that I'm feeling? What is it right now that I need? What is it right now that I didn't get when I was a child? What is it now that I can give myself?
Mm-hmm.
And it might be forgiveness. It might be love. And you go into it. And every time you get a feeling, you go for a walk and you say, what is it I'm feeling? What is it I need? What is it that I didn't get? And what is it I can give myself? Because you can give it to yourself. You don't need to wait for somebody else. I've been 16 years without a relationship and had to do it for myself. It wasn't very pretty.
But you know, like, because relationships bring out a lot of stuff, don't they? And they are a really amazing mirror into what you're not giving yourself. So
Absolutely.
what you search for on the outside, you know, like, oh, I need more attention, I need more of this, I need more of that. You probably just actually need to give that to yourself. And don't get me wrong, it's absolutely lovely to get all of that from a loving partner. However, if you are depleted and you are not in a place of loving yourself, it will never be enough from the partner. Never, because they will give you what you need and you think that's what you need, but then you actually need more and you actually need more. It's a time and you actually have to look within. And I've just actually found a really amazing quote. It says, perhaps the biggest mistake I made in the past was that I believed love was about finding the right person. In reality, love is about becoming the right person. Don't look for the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. Become the person you want to spend the rest of your life with.
I love it. I'm laughing. Do you know why I'm laughing? Because I was walking up Queen Street, which is our central street in Auckland, about a year ago, and I thought, oh, I haven't had a dinner date for ages. I haven't been out. You know, I was walking and I felt like my shoulders were down. I was feeling really low, and I just thought, I don't need a dinner date. So I'm going to actually pretend I had the best dinner date with myself last night. And I was thinking about the dinner date I had in my mind. And I, you know, my shoulders lifted up and I was strutting up the road, thinking I had the best night ever. The candles were lit. I had this beautiful meal. And it was, I imagined this incredible evening. And I was then thinking, what's the difference between it actually happening with a real date or by myself or not happening at all? And it was really interesting because as I started to walk really confidently up the street, because it was the best night I'd ever had, all these heads started to turn. You could just see all these flaps and the heads would just turn as I was walking out the road because I was looking as though I literally had the best night of my life. And you can create it. I created it in my mind. And actually, what's the difference between it being real and not? I felt really happy, can find happiness within.
Absolutely. And like, you know, when you are in a place of loving yourself, we talk about this as well, you find that you get things ebb away, you know, any toxic friendships or any toxic relationships. And I say the word toxic, and that covers a multitude of, you know, scenarios, doesn't it? And, you know, there can be just slightly a bit of jealousy there or a few put downs from people, but then people start to ebb away because all of a sudden you come into yourself. You're now not needy. You don't need anything from anybody else. What you get just adds a bit of extra value to your life, and it's so beautiful and so enriching. So when you love yourself, you find you have much more soulful relationships anyway, because one, you're not going to accept any crap from anyone, and two, you're giving out such authenticity. And when you talk to people, it's true from your soul, from your heart. You really believe that about them. And it comes across like that with such great energy. So you attract all these amazing people. So yeah, I'm not surprised you're walking down the street, strutting your stuff, looking super happy, because happiness, people want that. They're drawn to it. They would have just been blown away by your energy walking up the street.
It was such fun, and it was such a good lesson to learn. And it's, you can look after yourself. When I was on my own for a while, I used to go out and buy myself flowers. Nobody was going to buy me flowers. I bought myself flowers. Or there'll be times I'd go in the supermarket and think, should I spend £10 on some flowers? I could save that money. And I thought, no, you deserve flowers. It doesn't matter about the £10. You can sacrifice that somewhere else. You, Sue O'Callaghan, deserve flowers. Buy yourself some flowers. Do something really nice for yourself. On a Tuesday, celebrate it's Tuesday. Put red lipstick on and wear high heels because it's Tuesday. Not because it's Valentine's Day or it's somebody's birthday. Because it's a Tuesday.
It's like this morning, I got up and I've been for my run, done my classes, done all of that shebang, had a shower, and I've got this beautiful bottle of perfume on the shelf, which, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, but we've been in lockdown for so many weeks. Nobody smells me, whatever, the kids might, but, I'm just mum, whatever. I was like that this morning, with my Chanel. I've walked out, I'm like, I smell amazing, but I've done it just for me because I love me and I deserve it. You're right, it's great.
So to listeners, what can you do for yourself to love yourself? It might just be that you need some rest and relaxation. Take some time out from the family. Just go out for a walk. When it's chaos, just go. When the house is a mess, just go. Go out and have some peace and time and say, it doesn't matter. In 10 years, will my life be any different because today the house is a mess? No. If you've got young children, leave it. Have 2 days where you just leave the chaos. You don't need to do it every single day, and take some time for you. Young children is hard, isn't it, Jo? Because you're just crazily busy the whole time. You don't stop. But whatever your life looks like right now in your circumstances, take some time out for you. Go and do something you've always wanted to do. Do something you did as a child that you loved. Going skating, whatever it looks like.
I agree, and I think to find self-love, you almost have to find who you are, because I don't even think a lot of people know who they are. They don't stop to put themselves first, because we are either thinking about our children or our partner or our parents or our siblings or our colleagues or our work. So we're so busy thinking about all these external sources, we forget who we are and what's important to us. And the self-love journey is just part of a really big journey. It's finding out who you are, what are your values, what do you actually really enjoy, what fills your soul, what does self-care look like for you. It's such a big topic. However, just about self-love, so take all of that aside, loving yourself, the first thing you've really got to do is think about them words that you speak to yourself. What is that little voice which we all have? And I still have it. We all have it. It still comes into me and says nasty things from time to time. Oh, sure you want to wear those jeans? Fat arse? Shut up. I'm not going to listen to you anymore. Do you know what I mean? So it's up to you if you're going to listen to that little voice and what words you're going to do. Turn it around. And you can turn it around, but it takes a lot of practice. And as I say, here I am, however many years down the line on my self-love journey, and that voice still crops up from time to time. You may be really tired, or you may be feeling a bit hormonal, whatever it is. The voice still comes up with some nasty comment, or you can't do that. You're not worthy of that. Oh, excuse me. Yes, I am. And sometimes it's there just to actually challenge you, which is good. But really, really be careful of the words you speak to yourself.
And talking about finding self-love, we've got a new freemium out, haven't we? Which is Finding Self-Love. So if you like our page on Facebook, you will see in a couple of days the freemium coming out, which has got beautiful words of affirmation on it, and you'll absolutely love it. It's beautifully illustrated. So stay following the page. I was also thinking, one of my greatest lessons ever on finding myself and getting to know myself, you were just talking about how do you get to know yourself. It was when I traveled alone. I went to Australia alone, and I traveled around Australia, and I went to Israel on my own, stayed on a kibbutz. And when you're on your own, you have to get to know yourself. And we stayed in Sydney, didn't we, when we went to the Speakers Institute, and there was a girl in the room who said she always travels on her own because it's a really good way to get to know yourself. When you're on your own, you do get to know yourself because you're in situations, you watch how you react, you watch how you have conversations. And so I'd say to you, take yourself out for a day by yourself. If it's going to be a day where you're going to go with your girlfriends, just go by yourself for a day out. Go to the zoo and go and look at the animals and go and have a coffee in the zoo, but actually watch how you react. Be in the place, be in the atmosphere, absorb it, but just be by yourself for a day and get to know yourself. Don't busy it always with friends.
I agree, because I must admit, some of my biggest growths have been when I have faced being lonely. So, it's very, very easy to fill your life with noise and fluff and, lots of distractions. However, sometimes just being alone and lonely with actually not much to do is the time when we actually really learn about ourselves. And that's actually when you can face your pain as well and come to terms with things. But yeah, it's a good place to be.
And the other thing to be aware of is when you're in the pain and you feel the tears flow, that's when the healing is happening. So if you're feeling the pain and you're aware of it and the tears flow, the tears are actually healing you. And the memory, the fact that you're reliving it, you're being healed, and you want to go on that journey again and again. You want to be able to cry. You want to be able to let go. You want to be able to be in the space to do it, but be in a safe space. So be in a place where somebody can hold you in that place, somebody that can just respect you and allow you to be vulnerable, or go and do it by yourself. I've always done mine by myself, and I go down to the beach, or in England I'd go down to a field and do it. But don't give up because you start to feel the pain and start to cry, because that's actually when you're being released of it. And Joe and I always talk about it being like an onion, layers coming off. So as a layer comes off and then you start to heal, another layer will come and another layer will come until a lot of it goes. And our life's journey is to walk in terms of getting to know ourselves and understanding ourselves. But the more we do it, the more we can love others, the more we can hold others in their journey as well. It's a beautiful journey to go on. I'm really excited.
I agree. This is why I turned myself into a self-love coach, because I do see it's the root of inner peace. It's the pathway to inner peace. That's what it is. And some stepping stones. Think about Dorothy going down the yellow brick road. Go down your own yellow brick road to self-love. It's painful, and there may be the odd tin man or strange person along the way to try and pull you to one side, but it's actually really worth it. And we started with the Louise Hay quote, so I'm going to finish with the Wayne Dyer quote, if that's okay.
I love Wayne Dyer. Yes,
so do I. He was just amazing. Him and Louise did a heck of a lot of work together. They valued each other's friendship, and they both thought the place is self-love. That's the place of healing. And he said, if you don't love yourself, nobody will. Not only that, you won't be good at loving anyone else. Loving starts with the self. So if you think you are good at loving other people, yet you are not loving yourself, you can do a whole better job. You just got to start. It's got to start here.
And we remind each other all the time, don't we, to do that for each other. So we're just here to remind you today, love yourself, do something kind for yourself, and be really gentle as well as for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the best things you can do is just say one little affirmation to yourself over and over again. Marissa Peer, she's amazing. She says to people, just say, I am enough, or I am worthy. Whichever it is, say to yourself throughout the day, say it 100 times a day if you have to, and say it every single day for the next 10 days. See how you feel? I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy, or I am enough. Whichever one resonates with you, I am enough. Just say it over and over again. Retrain that brain, because
keep repeating it.
From our hearts to your heart, you are enough, and you are worthy of your love for you.